Hi everyone, this is Waldorf,
And this is Statler.
and we're here today because we have this special little book that was given to us. It's the pre-release version of the Ninth Age 1.2.0.
Of the rule book. We had no idea anybody was actually watching our channel.
Exactly.
Not only are people watching, people from the actual Ninth Age team are watching, it would seem.
Apparently.
Well, they're watching you at least.
They're watching me?
Yeah.
They're listening.
Listening, that's true, yes.
No one's watching me. But anyway, we were given the privilege of being able to do the pre-release book. We've just going into this, like I said, we are just content team. We've really have no idea about anything going into this, what we were looking at.
Right.
Which was kind of good.
You've probably seen from our videos, we, like everyone else in the Ninth Age, had our ideas of things that we'd like to see different in the rules.
We have our hopes and dreams.
We have our hopes and dreams, and some have been dashed, as expected.
We have an entire video of those hopes and dreams.
Exactly. Go see it, and you can compare it to this one afterwards.
Go look at that video and watch it again, and you can. No.
But I mean, the reality is this is a driven initiative, and while we all have our own opinions, they're all of equal merit, and
Yep.
and it can equally be considered and not considered. But I think just reading from some of the stuff we've seen on the post, the focus really here on this version is some very focused changes, and we'll get into that about magic and some stuff about war machines, army composition being a big one.
And from what I'm hearing as well on the boards, they were trying to kind of streamline some things and speed some things up.
Right, as far as gameplay, maybe not
correct.
how they're written, but in the context of how it affects the
Correct.
game. So clearly, as you'll see when we get into it, and it's not a radical change to all the rules. It's basically the Ninth Age that we were playing for 1.1 with some very focused change, some cleanup here and there, and things of that nature. And we're going to run through everything.
Yep. So hold on to your seats.
Exactly. Or sit down. That might be the proper thing to say. Please sit down.
No, ride your bike, do whatever you're doing that you normally do.
We don't want anybody to hurt themselves, They need them to sit down.
No. It's less people in the tournament.
There are a few people that are as old as us, and they might break a hip.
There's no one as old as us.
Yeah.
All right. So scrolling down, we have the same, this is all the same. We're just kind of going to go scroll through this and pause where we get to the green, which is the new, because of course they did do the color-coded, which was great.
Right, just like all the other versions, if you'll see it, there'll be green text across that green, and at the very end there's a synopsis of all the changes.
Correct.
Just like say every other update.
Yep. Scale of the game, this has all been there. So here we go. Base contact. Two units are considered in base contact with each other if the rectangles formed by the outermost edge of their footprints, called the boundary rectangle, are touching one another, including corner-to-corner contact. Incomplete ranks extend over the empty gaps. So basically what I'm seeing here is if even though you've got 4 ranks of 4 and 2 guys in the back, it's kind of your boundary rectangle, if what I'm understanding correctly from this, is the whole unit of 5 ranks.
Right. So before you put your models would be in the back or sticking out, and you would project out to the side and out to the back and all that. But so that's still there, but it caused some anomalies where people could say, "Oh, I'm going to take the casualties on this side, so my back rank's a little farther away."
Correct.
For that rear charge, or things of that nature, and it's going to affect some other formation things we'll see later. So basically, you have a footprint which is defined by if you had all the full models in that unit, what that rectangle or square would be.
Or at least up to the the partial range.
And up to the corners, and that's what's important now for determining distance and everything else.
Yeah. Which I think is kind of slows down the gaminess a little bit, so I think that's okay.
I think it'll be hard for people to get their heads around just the way it's written, but yeah, I think that's an improvement.
I think so. And like we started off when I read this, you're going to hear a lot of I think this is what they're going for here, because again, we don't know.
Yeah, we're reading it just like you. No one gave us the interpretation.
Yeah, Would have been nice if we could have like called them on the carpet and just say, "Explain this to me." And
Yeah, had our own little personal.
yeah,
Yeah.
we could talk to them if they want us to do this again. Well, we shouldn't say that.
This will be the last thing we ever.
Or
see
we're
from
not
it.
going to be doing this
No,
again.
yeah.
Okay. Da-da-da-da-da. Such as a failed board. When you encounter a situation, re-roll the relevant die. Oh, re-rolling a die is not a
It's not a
modifier.
modifier.
Yeah, that was something that came up on a message board. I
Right.
mean, the question answer board.
That was a quick QA that they added, just as a clarification.
The direction die, they're just basically clearing up the how to use better written how to use a single normal D6 as a direction die. I think
However, I haven't found a place where it applies now.
I haven't either,
Yeah.
so I don't
Which
know
will
that this will
explain
ever
soon
get.
enough.
And
Which brings us to the next one, which is a big deal.
yes,
So you'll notice that there's big lines to scatter.
scatter seems to be gone. And if you look at the bottom of this page,
Templates and template hits and line templates are all gone. So-
all templates are gone.
Correct. And as you'll see when we get to the War Machine part, there's basically a new way for determining how many models are hit.
Right.
And
We'll talk about this later again, but
this is a big change that'll be a while for things to get used to. I
Yes.
think this is wonderful myself.
I think it's a great change.
I don't know how many times I'd be in a game and a person would say the angle was this far and it was this far.
Correct.
A third person would have to come and
Yeah,
adjudicate.
the angle of the arrow.
Exactly.
And then the template hits the guy, and the guy says,
Guys,
"Oh, it
oh,
hit 6."
You only
I'm
hit
like,
6 and you're in the middle of the unit and you've hit 21.
You want to get an impartial guy over here? Yeah, it's 17.
You know,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, it's anyway.
So yeah, I think this is.
I think it's fantastic.
I don't know what we're going to do. I'm going to do with my extra time, discussing the numbers of hits
Yes.
that I'm going to gain in the game.
And the time it takes to call a judge over to
Exactly.
count for you.
Exactly.
Anyway, I think it's a good change. This is one of the biggest changes
Yes.
in the rule book. The templates being gone.
Yeah.
All right. So while you're recovering for that, when measuring distance to and from, measure, like we spoke before, the outermost edge of their footprints.
So it's that rectangle footprint.
Correct. Drawing a line of sight from several miles.
It's actually going to make, I think, trays, helpful to a certain way, but also help
movement
people,
trays. Well, the problem is if you lose 2 ranks or
people lose
so
their-
out of a movement
yeah,
trace,
use their casualties.
then it no
but,
longer
yeah,
applies. But
yeah.
Again, line of sight cannot be drawn outside the unit's front arc. You no longer draw line of sight as if you're in the front rank, if you're in the second rank or third rank.
Right.
So that's a slight change, right? Not. I don't think it's a big deal, but slight change. Model height, they've gone away from what they used to have. They've switched it from small, medium, large. Now
Right.
we are at standard, large, and gigantic.
Right. And standard is basically infantry, war beasts, and so on, as you see.
Mhm.
War machines are all, and then large is cavalry, monstrous infantry, monstrous beast, monstrous cav. So they're all the same size. Now there's one here that gigantic is anything with a towering presence.
Yes.
So it's no longer large target, it's towering presence. May have been better if they just said gigantic and instead of have towering presence, just call it gigantic. Any model with gigantic special rule.
Well,
I'll tell you.
I kind of agree, but then I thought about it, and I'm like, well, you don't want gigantic to be a model height and a special rule,
Yeah.
I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it'd be better if it was the same, but okay.
Okay.
I mean, there's not a reason to change it because it has only one type. The other ones, it makes sense because it's, a grouping of types. But yeah,
and again, it's a harmless change.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
moves it a little bit away from a different set of rules.
correct. Kings of War, right?
Kings of War, yes. Again, outermost, talking about the outermost edge of this unit rectangle. Remove the part about templates up partially off the board.
Was there there wasn't a graphic on there, was there?
What?
Do they have a
There was no graphic on
Yeah,
that.
they probably could use a graphic on that.
It would be nice.
Yeah,
And maybe they plan on adding one.
yeah,
They've got a
yeah.
couple
This is a
spaces.
pre-version, so yeah, who knows?
Right.
Characteristics. These are all the same. I actually kind of thought that they would rename some of these just to get away from
I kind of
the old
expected
GW
that. Correct.
designations. I've seen other systems that have moved
Yeah.
away from GW and they've tended to rename some things, but it's fine.
Yeah, I kind of expected that.
Yeah.
I think the pitchforks would have come out and there would have been marching.
Oh, I think that's going to happen anyway. I think we have. I mean, the fireball spill will be in great great use on the message
On the
boards
message
over the
boards.
next couple of weeks. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, hopefully the moderators are ready with their
I'm,
bans.
I'm sure they had to just spell squirrels up, so they'll be prepared. Yeah.
What do we have here? Several modifiers in the same group. Different, basically different. Being a little more clear on the way modifiers are applied.
Right.
As close as best they can. I
Yes.
mean, you can see it's just worded different. It's kind of the same way we've all been playing it, I think.
Yeah.
Just cleaned up the language.
And some of that's, and I think, I mean, you know, all my sympathy to these guys, because
Yeah.
having written rules before, there's always somebody, no matter how tight the language is, that tries to twist the meaning,
Right.
because no language is that precise.
Correct.
And then you get to the point where, you know, you're bouncing, you start writing it like a lawyer would write it, and then no one understands it. So, you know,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, so it's a hard job on their part.
Yep. Okay. Here we're talking about unit types, building an army categories.
Categories.
And just kind of mentioning that each army book is going to be divided up between different categories.
Right.
Inside. Point.
And this is if you saw the 98th scroll, it talked a little bit about it. As far as it's no longer going to be, and we'll get into more detail. It's not going to be lords, heroes, core, special, and rare. It's now going to be a different composition, and that composition will be army dependent, and that will make the armies have a slight unique feel to them.
Correct.
And that's going to be aligned kind of with the polls that they had as far as desired play styles.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's probably, of all the changes, it's not such a big change rule-wise, but it's probably the biggest change as far as how people do things.
Preparing for a game.
preparing for the
Yeah,
game.
I agree.
And it's going to have probably much far-reaching impact than people realize even now on how armies are built, because you know we've gotten used to a certain style that's been around for
Yeah.
you know close to 30 years. So I mean, I think I made a post. You know, the '90s called. They want their composition system back. You know, so you know, I'm really glad to see this. To be perfectly
So am I.
honest.
I'm glad to see it. I haven't seen what all those restrictions are and those percentages are, but I'm glad to see they're moving in this direction.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we'll probably disagree with certain percentage or whatever, as everyone else will
I'm sure we
on the
will.
boards, but the idea is going away from that, you know, somewhat rigid methodology that applied to everyone, and which caused a lot of problems in trying to fit, you know, how many rares and specials against core, and you know,
Right.
you just had weird things happening, and they've been struggling. You can tell as they've been moving things around in the rule books for certain things that happen. And
Yeah,
then,
they've been bouncing back.
yeah,
and forth.
yeah. Then you can it's a special, but you can only take 2 of them, and it's all kinds of
Right.
you know,
so you
odd
got
things.
units that are rare showing up in the special just because you needed more of
right.
them.
You needed more, you know,
Yeah.
they need to bounce off of each other. So here's kind of the high level breakdown, which is character. So there's no longer lords and heroes. There's just characters. They're all in one category. Core. So the core tax is still there,
Correct. And it says usually around 25.
but it'll vary, you know. And I suspect they'll be tweaking that as time goes on. Then you have a special category, which is usually unlimited and holds a lot of, you know, better than core
well,
units.
everything other than core except for the weird.
And then, then they have different categories. And the army specific that could also be multiple army specific categories.
Right.
You may just have one. You may have none. You may have, I don't know. We haven't seen all the army books, but you may have 2 or 3 different categories.
And as you can see down below, some units belong to more than one category.
Right.
So it can count against something can count against your characters and count against something else, like a flyers.
Yeah, and a good
or
example are
monsters.
mounted characters on
Yes.
big Griblies.
Yes.
They're probably going to count against both, or parts of them will apply
Yes.
against both.
Yeah, we've seen the one where
Yeah.
the character goes against the character and his mount goes against something else.
Right.
Whatever that's called in the army.
And here they talk about the additional categories, which we mentioned, and then splitting between categories we just talked about. Then there's duplication. So before you could only basically have, for a standard size army, you could have up to three, or up to 2, or depending on what category you were. Now, instead of being locked to the generic to those categories, they've done away with all of that, and some units are limited to how many units you can take in the army.
Correct.
I think I like this a lot, particularly. Hopefully, we'll see when they do their entry game in a warband version. This gives them greater flexibility. but taking the cap off, because you have some armies that have relatively cheap characters, but you could only have 3 of them because,
Right.
and you don't have a lot of characters maybe in the army. Kingdom of Equity comes to mind. Not that their characters are quite expensive, so it's not usually an issue, but still, so it gives you the ability to have maybe more characters than you were able to before from a context of numbers. Now you still got to deal with the points, so and
Correct.
And characters aren't
Points
cheap.
are always going to be an issue.
Yeah, so it's really about the points more than the limits. Now you have some things like elite, super elite units, maybe 1 in an army or 2 in an army, and we'll see that once we see army books.
Yep.
But this gives, I think, a lot more flexibility for them to tweak without doing some of the odd things that they were doing, like putting all elite archers in rare and stuff like that.
Yeah. The only downside to this, of course, is the learning curve for everyone to go through and do this.
Yes.
And the other downside I see to this is tournament organizers. These guys have to go through 100 lists and find all these different things instead of their normal just look at their 3 categories and be done.
It will be difficult,
Yes.
and it'll be very important that if they can modify the various programs that are used.
And from what I've heard, they've got those guys on board and they're ready to go.
That'll be the key, I think, for most people. The ones that I'm aware of, at least I know you can do whatever you want if you have the time. So I assume they've been working on it. But that'll be key for this, because at the point, it's hard enough calculating correct points manually for a lot of people, showing them in the right categories, and then the tournament organizer just knowing that, this also counts in this case.
Right.
When looking through, 50 or 100.
I actually see the possibility of tournament organizers requiring it to be turned in some type of from some type of army builder program.
Yes.
Whether that's the
or requiring some math displayed or something.
Whichever one. Yep.
Yeah.
This is just kind of clarifying your general's the highest leadership in your army, same as we've always played.
Yep. Unless he's not a leader.
Unless he's not a leader, correct.
Yeah, or the battle standard.
War bands, duplicate limits, cut in half.
And the grand armies are doubled.
Yep.
So that's pretty much as it was before. But
yeah, just wordings change a bit
wordings
because
different.
they count for the categories.
Correct.
Randomized deployment types, randomized secondary.
So this is pretty big here. So the days of 2,000, 2,250, and 2,500 point armies are over.
Yeah.
They've basically changed the entire point system. It's not as scary as it first sounds. It's basically a doubling. And from what I can understand is it's going to help them balance some of the lower cost units that were too close. They had no points to spread, and they're hoping this will help them a little bit as they go forward over the next until 2's out, I guess is what's going to take for them to finish all the army books balancing. Yeah, but it gives them a little more flexibility. I think a part of it too is it helps them also move away from the Warhammer world.
Yeah, I agree. And they're recommending 4,500 points games, which is the equivalent of an old 2250.
Right, which is slightly less than a lot of tournaments played. I mean, I played 2250 a lot.
And again, the reasoning is from their research or whatever, from what I saw on the message board, people aren't finishing 3-hour games with a 2,500 point army.
Right.
Which is kind of odd because the Mid-Atlantic gives 2.5 hours a round, and those are finishing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So, anyway.
Well, the other thing, too, is...
I guess they pay attention to what they're doing.
Well, they've also dropped the characters to most of the time about 35%.
Correct.
So no longer 50%.
Right.
So back closer to the old game.
Weren't they 35 before?
It was 25, then...
I thought it was 35, but no more than
35
25 of each.
Yeah, 35. Was it 35 for lords, and then...
Okay.
Anyway. No, 35 for heroes. I have to remember what the heck was. So, so I think there's less points for characters.
Okay. Battlefield
that'll happen with the end time stuff when they raised the points. In the
it went to 50, but I thought it got cut back down. I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just dreaming. All right. Randomized deployment types. You can see they've added a counter thrust deployment type. There's a you deploy your first unit 6 inch. You are not, and this is one deployment type where you are not allowed to drop your entire army.
Right. You have to do one at a time.
Correct. And you just drop a unit with 6 inches off the main line. The opponent drops one 18 inches away from you.
Yeah, so you basically, the first guy can be up within 6 inches, and then the opponent sets up a unit. He has to also be outside of 6 inches, but he has to be 18 inches away from the opponent.
You're still going to start 24 apart.
Yes.
I'm sorry, 18 apart.
18.
That's the closest. Correct.
What this can, I think this helps, I'll call it aggressive melee armies.
Right.
In that it pushes the defender back a little bit. And gives a little bit less depth to their, not necessarily depth, but it gets you that few inches closer to, to the battle line.
Correct. All right, moving on.
This will be a whole strategy too. I
There
can
will
see,
be.
I can see the fast cav formed in
Yeah.
conga line long across the front,
the middle.
just to push the line, and then you do a vanguard and reform it after you've deployed your army.
Yeah. Secondary objectives. Kind of the same as before. 3 enemy units with scoring. Then now it's scoring. You're not a scoring unit. You just have the scoring special.
Right. So it's no longer that you have to be a formed unit with a banner to be scoring.
Correct.
You're a scoring unit because you have the rule to be scoring. And so we haven't seen all the army books, so we haven't seen how that's fully going to work out. But it hints that maybe units before that weren't scoring will be scoring. So I guess we'll have to see.
Okay.
Because you notice he crossed out light troops, and
Yes.
so it's possible.
Yeah, it's like hold out hope that my Wolf Riders can be a scoring unit.
Yeah.
That'll be dashed.
I suspect this fast maneuverable stuff won't get the rule.
Refuse flank and circle is just talking about the different ways to deploy. Putting in the new names.
Right.
Generating spells.
Okay, this is the other big change.
So, the one change, the T, I guess, is
Yes.
a change.
Well, the magic system.
The magic system.
The magic
will change,
system
correct.
is changed, and mostly because of the spells, not so much the rules. The rules are basically the same thing with a few
Right.
tweaks, but the spells are very, very different.
The spells numbered 1 to 6 are called now they're referred to as learned spells.
Right.
They should be referred to as stumbled upon on the way to the battle spells.
Yes.
But we'll go with learned. Spells 0.
You just learned it when you got to the battlefield because you didn't know it until
I'm
you.
still a little bitter about that one.
It's because you'll forget them after this battle, because the next battle you have to learn new ones.
Spells numbered 0, same as they've always been. That's the old signature spell that you can always switch down to. Nothing's changed.
For those lores that have
signature
zero
spells. Some don't have them.
Right.
And then some spells have attributes, not all of them. Some paths have what they call traits now.
Right.
A trait, if you saw the pyromancy that was released, a trait is the new fireball, which does 1d3 plus 1 strength 4 hits. It's a spell that you get in addition to the spells that you get for being a level 2 guy or a guy with 2 spells.
Right. A guy with 1 spell.
Yeah. I mean, however many spells you get, you also get this as
You get
a
the trait.
bonus spell. It's not one you switch to, it's one you get.
Correct.
So, anyway.
And that's true of the attribute.
The attribute's just like it was before. It's something
Right.
that happens when you
Right.
cast a spell.
Then you also have, in some cases, special rules that are
Yes.
related to the spell
path.
lore.
Path,
The
not lore.
path, sorry, yes.
There are no lores. It's been gone for a little while. I was the one that could never get that right.
There's the great lore that 8th edition was the best rules ever written, didn't need to be changed.
Yeah, there is that lore going around
Yes,
there that
that's
some people...
I keep reading that lore.
where were those people, 2 years ago when they had the ETC rules composition?
Well, they were
and
talking
the
about how 7th
Swedish
edition was the greatest version
composition?
ever
Oh, that's-
written.
That's
You
true.
know,
Sorry,
yes.
they migrated.
Yes,
My
exactly.
mistake. Stand and shoot. You can only stand and shoot if the charging unit has more than half its frontage in the reacting unit's front arc.
Arc.
Yes,
Arc.
arc.
It's a pirate.
It's an arc. This is another thing they've done. They've decided not to use arcs. They're using arcs.
Because the arc.
Arr.
We all have to have a parrot when we come to our games, or a wooden leg.
I don't know that this is a change.
It's not a change. I think they're just trying to hopefully clarify that stand and shoot is only in the front arc, and what that means.
Oh, no. I remember this now.
Okay.
This was the odd case where a unit of unit 5 wide is charging you.
Right.
2 of them are in your front arc of the guy that's charging you. 3 of them are in your flank.
Uh huh.
and you could stand and shoot even though you were getting charged in the flank.
Oh. Okay.
That's what it was. It's to clarify that you have to be basically you have to be being charged in the front
okay.
to be able to stand and shoot.
No, I didn't.
That's where it came up. I remember seeing this.
Okay, I didn't realize that had come up.
I read things.
Yeah.
I don't usually remember them, but I read things.
They-
Moving on.
Who are you?
I don't know. What do we have?
Block path.
Okay. Enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks. I don't remember this at all. Combat reform so that the facing. Combat reform so that
This is the one I wrote up as it said
this is
that
the
needs to
one
be
you wrote
changed. That's why I gave it to you.
Yeah, this is the one with some typo issues.
Yes.
Combat reform so that the facing the unit was charged in does not charge, so that the charge unit do not change its number of files or ranks, and so the maximum number of models on both sides that are in base contact with an enemy, if it.
We need this cleaned up.
Yeah, that needs to be cleaned up.
I don't really understand what they're saying, to tell you the truth.
I-
And I've read it several
Yeah,
times.
it's some kind of thing about if you're blocked and you can't align,
Right.
without changing that. You don't have to maximize. If you can get to the unit without maximizing, you don't have to maximize. That's what I'm interpreting.
I gave up. It
Yeah.
hurts my head.
I think I need a couple more of these in there. that would help it a
I
lot.
think so.
Yeah.
Or some commas.
Yeah, some more commas.
Commas
yes.
always help
I
things.
just throw in a couple semicolons. The British like semicolons. You need to put some of those in.
Here's another one that I'm not real sure about, but when a unit is fleeing, it cannot perform any voluntary actions. Then in parentheses, if the unit would normally have the option to not perform an action, it cannot perform that action if fleeing.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a clarification of something that we don't know.
Correct.
You can't do something you can't do,
Yes, you're not.
even if you're fleeing.
You can't not choose to do something you can't do.
Yes.
So, I would love to see an example of what
Yes.
this is
You know,
talking
this
about.
was a QA thing. I'd love to see what that
I
question
can almost
was.
guarantee this is a QA thing, but I have
Yeah.
no idea what it would have come from.
Yeah, I think some of the QAs, they should just send back, malware instead of actually trying to change the rules.
So anyway, yeah, and again, pre-release version, okay, pre-release.
Yes. This stuff will all be cleaned up.
And now we come to
We're having
the-
fun because we have a channel we can do
Yeah, and we're allowed to make fun of them because what are they going to do to us? Fire us?
that. Exactly.
We don't work for them. They don't work for them.
Yeah.
Nobody works for them.
Exactly.
Nobody gets any money out of this thing.
Exactly.
All right. Wizards. They have Wizard Apprentices. Add +1 to casting and dispelling. Wizard Masters. These are just new names.
Yes.
Same effect, new names. Right? There's no more levels.
Right.
You buy, instead of buying a level, you buy another spell.
Correct. So basically, you come with one learn spell, and you pay for all the extra ones you can get.
Correct.
It'll be really interesting when all the rule books come out. I like to see if they give certain races extra spells.
I would imagine they would.
Yeah, I mean that would be kind of neat.
Or make it cheaper for some races to buy
Yeah.
additional spells.
Yeah.
Which
could
is
see
what
the
I kind of
Soin
expect.
Ancients, having their
Right.
their Quaddle Lord or something like that. That'd be kind of a neat thing. I don't know if they're gonna. I suspect they won't do it at this point because they're not. I don't think they're gonna get that into the rule books.
Right.
But that'd be interesting to see
Well,
over time.
I think they might do a little of it.
Yeah, I'd be surprised to see on the rule books. I think most are just what they said, making it fit in these rule changes,
Right.
which is going to have some change. Some things will be somewhat radical in moving things around and getting rid of options and that kind of thing. So I mean, we'll see.
This is the same thing we talked about before, the difference, the learn spells, the trait spells, and the attribute spells.
Right.
Yeah. It's the 0 through 6, the T, and the A.
Right.
The only thing different is apparently the attribute is an option whether you cast it now.
Yes.
You don't have to. Not sure when you wouldn't, but you don't have to. There were times when you couldn't.
Yes.
But anyway, character only is no longer a spell type. As you can see, line template,
Line template
vortex
and
template,
vortex.
both those are gone.
Because there's no more templates.
No more templates.
They're handled a different way.
So nice.
Let's say they're handled a different way. They're just
Correct.
yeah.
Well, yeah. No templates. Everything's different.
Yeah.
All right. Magic Flux. Dice. So what do we got? These dice have kept a pool. This is just redefining them. They're called Magic Dice now. They don't want to use the same terminology that were used before as Power Dice and Dispel Dice. Again, just a language difference, nothing else. Reactive pool, so it's the same thing. The reactive player is equal to the highest, so nothing's changing there. They're just changing the wording to match the new Magic Dice instead of Power Dice. Again, same thing, some more. Overwhelming power is no longer a thing. We'll see more of that in just a moment. So lost focus, those are okay. And again, removing the overwhelming power from here. Overwhelming power is sorry, I misspoke. It's different. It's still here. When you roll 2 or more 6s when you're casting, not when you're dispelling. This is not an option when you're dispelling. It doesn't happen.
Right. It only applies to casting.
Yes. You immediately pick up another die out of your pool and roll that and add it to your casting roll.
If you have one in your pool.
And this can exceed your normal 5 dice. So if you roll 5 dice, you get double 6s. If you have another one left in your power pool, you picked it up and add it to the cast.
Right.
So it's cleaner as far as that goes.
It's not an automatic boost. It actually, if you used all your dice to do your overwhelming power, to do your big roll,
you get
you 5 dice something. You don't have any dice left.
You don't get a benefit out of it.
You don't get the you don't get the benefit.
You do.
That's
get
the big thing. It's not about trying to overwhelm the magic user anymore.
Right.
You just can't. Now, if you happen to have a dice, it could actually screw you. You say, "I'm saving 2 dice for this other spell. I wanted to try to dispel this," and you overpower it. Now you only got 1.
Which is again, I think this is a benefit to the old system because the guy would roll 3 dice on something, get the overwhelming power. He gets the spell off. Well, he used to lose 3 dice too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. Forget that. Let me erase that. I'm gonna go back and delete that out. Anyway, so then when you miscast, this is where it gets a little complex. I think this is going to take a little bit to get used to.
Yeah, it's just a little wonky.
Yeah.
It's written. Fiddly,
You make a miscast. You roll a d3, add 1 to it. So you got an average of what, 3?
Average of 3, so between 2 and 4.
Right. Multiply the result by the number of magic dice you use. So if you use 5 dice, roll 3, you've got a 20 result.
Because 3 plus 1
is 4. Times 5.
Do the math.
Do the math. I can do the math. Now, that extra die that got sucked in does not count towards this.
Right.
So the max you can have is 5 on this one. And here's the miscast chart. Now,
completely different than it was.
And
much worse.
Not only that, but like we said, if you end up with the 20, like I just mentioned, if you notice, these are always, if you're 10 plus, 15 plus, 20 plus. So if you roll the 20, you get
all
this,
4
this,
of them.
this, and this.
You get a little bit of everything, or a lot of everything, depending on your perspective.
So, I mean, even if you roll 2 dice, double 6s, you got a 12, you use, whatever. Use 2 dice, you rolled a 4. The worst possible result is what, an 8 from that? Yeah, 2 dice, and so you got an 8. So
you're getting some Witchfire.
Yeah. The Witchfire, your caster unit suffers a number of hits equal to the miscast roll, which is your 8. The number of hits cannot exceed the total number of wounds in the unit. And these hits have the magic dice used, which would be 2 in this case. Magic attacks and armor piercing 1.
Right.
So it's not terrible if you're using 2 dice.
Basically strength 2 and...
Strength 2, armor piercing 1.
And up to...
Yeah, your knights aren't going to be real happy with you if you do that. Your human knights, but it happens.
It won't be so bad. Strength 2, you're not going to wound a lot.
5s?
Sorry?
5s?
Yeah, it's 5s, and then you may take a wound, and then you're not going to blow up an entire unit.
No. Unless you manage to roll really good. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but not with 2 dice. You're not going to blow up an entire unit that has a lot of armor.
Yeah. On a 10 plus, in addition, you take you roll a die on a 4 up, you lose the spell.
Right.
15, as you can see, The caster loses a number of wounds equal to half its starting wounds, rounding up. No saves of any kind.
Right.
On a 4-up. So 50-50 chance of that happening. And the breach in the veil, 4-up, the wizard is dead. Remove it from the game. Now, again, the thing to remember is you got a 15, so on a 4-up, your wizard's only getting hurt on a 4-up. But there's 15 strength, however many dice you used, hits going into your unit.
Right. Now, say, you did a 5-dicer, for example, and you rolled a 4. So
It's a 20.
You rolled a 3, I'm sorry, which is a 4. So it's a 20. So you're going to take, your mage is going to be dead.
On a 4-up.
On a 4-up. Now the question I have here is, if he's not dead, I assume that he also would take the wound.
What do you mean?
15 plus?
Yeah. Well, he rolls a 4-up to take wounds.
Right.
Remember, if he's a lord level, he takes 2 because it's rounded up.
Correct. What I'm saying is, if he rolls the 20, both effects affect him.
Mm-hmm.
So 4-up, he's dead. It doesn't matter.
If
you don't roll a 4, I would assume you still have to roll the 4-up for the 15 result.
Correct.
See what happens. Now, when we see the army books, we'll see that it looks like if the rumors are true, all wizards are going to have 3 wounds, but we'll see. So you probably don't have a chance. I mean, you can't kill him with that result, but you can hurt him pretty bad.
Well,
Then amnesia, it's a miscast. You can't use that spell anymore, which is not in itself too terrible, depending on how important that spell was to you, but usually not too terrible.
And what turn it is.
Right, and what turn it is. But you start having 20 now, compare that on the Witchfire, and that's going to hurt.
Yeah, exactly. It's because you used 5 dice, so you got 20 strength 5 hits going into that unit with armor.
With armor piercing 1, so minus 3 armor.
There's where you're going to lose a unit.
Yes, so you're putting 5 dice behind something, and you may be paying the piper.
Yeah. But on the bright side, you're limited to only the number of wounds in the unit.
Yeah, there is that.
If you only got 15, that you can ignore that, whatever.
I think you'll see wizards trying to cast big spells no longer in big blocks of troops.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen as much as it used to.
I think it'll be more in fast cavalry and other small bunker type of things.
So, I mean, as you can see, this is a major change.
If they can't be by themselves. The miscast is a major change.
Miscast is really, it's hurting you by killing your troops more than anything.
Yes.
The risk to the mage himself is nowhere near I don't think it's as big as it used to be.
No, because you have to really get up, you have to get to a 20.
Well, 15, you can take two
You can
wounds.
take some wounds. If you ever got wounds, it's a risk.
Yeah.
But you still have to basically get to a 20.
Yeah.
And you saw what it takes to get to 20. So it's almost, it's extremely difficult.
It's tough to get to a 20.
To get to a 20. But it's very easy to, put a whole bunch of hits on your unit.
Yep.
It's a little tougher, squishy guys, too.
Yeah. Yep. Again.
So those low dice spells are going to become even more important in the game.
They are. They're going to become even better than they were.
Which makes me happy. I hated about when we played Warhammer 8th, the strategies most people was just 5 dice this, 5 dice that.
Correct.
That wasn't tactics. That's just
right.
Rolling the dice and hope you get a vortex wipe and that's half out your army. It
was only really a 2 to 4 that hurt you.
And
that was only 50% of the time.
Exactly, and you can take the item to re-roll the chart.
This is just telling you magical moves. Units with random movement cannot be magically moved.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Or cannot be moved magically. Something like that. Tricks are for kids.
Raise wounds. Be very, very bad. Those with feather ranks.
There's no more captured. Oh, this is kind of it's a however captured banner cannot be brought back. There's no more. They took that out.
Oh, if you lose your banner.
Right.
Now you can bring back your banner. Is that what that's saying?
Well, you don't lose your banner, right? With this version, which we'll come to.
No, I'm just... Oh, a captured banner, okay.
Right.
No, the question, I guess, what if you lose your standard bearer? Because you're down to 1 guy. And it's only your champion. Then can you bring your standard bearer back?
The way it's written, you can, yeah.
Okay, and your musician. Okay. Anyway, lost.
That's one of the changes we'll get to, though, because it doesn't have the same impact as it used to.
Excess wounds are lost. Raised models with front rank must be placed
without front rank.
Oh, never mind. It will look confusing to me there for a minute until I actually read it the right way. Sorry. Move on. I was saying the guys with front rank had to be placed in the back. Thank you. Shooting. Second line of sight for each shooting model. It's one model target. Yeah, nothing. Slight clarifications in
Yes.
the wording. Panic. Really, I didn't see a change to shooting.
No,
Did you?
I was a little disappointed. I was hoping they would reduce some of the shooting modifiers for ballistic-based shooting.
Correct.
And incorporate like the multi-shot modifier. Just put it in a shooting instead of having it as a special
Oh,
rule.
as a special rule.
I mean, I think anything that's a modifier should be all in one place instead of having to look in different places.
Well,
You know, I understand why
the
they
only
did it.
problem is because, like the with the War Machine, the Hellblaster thing. What is that called now? The volley guns.
The volley guns, yes.
The volley guns aren't multi-shot. They don't have the multi-shot penalty.
Right, but you say what has multi-shot. All I'm saying
Oh,
is
right.
listed in the modif.
Okay.
I think all the modifiers that affect one thing should be
Should
listed
be in
in
one
place.
spot. Okay.
Yes.
That-
You
that-
shouldn't have to go find a special rule to find that modifier.
Okay.
You know, it can be in both, but I think they should be. I mean,
Okay, I
hopefully
can understand.
in time that they'll do that. It also helps when they do their cheat sheets in the back. At some point, it'd be great to see somebody. I mean, we may end up doing ourselves, doing a double-sided cheat sheet that you can just play with. You know, for the
Right.
basic
A play
stuff.
sheet. Yes.
A play sheet, which is most game systems have. It just helps new people get into a game, or even somewhat established people remember things if they haven't been playing for a while.
And like I said,
More
plenty of-
more colorful,
more colorful
graphics.
diagrams.
And
This is
as
nice.
far as we're concerned, you can never have enough pictures.
You could never have enough examples
Exactly.
like this.
We
It's great.
believe a picture's worth 1,000 words.
And like we said before, it'd be nice to get one on that other
yeah,
unit footprint. What is it called? The rectangular.
yeah, most definitely. There's a number of things. I think it just helps people understand concepts very quickly, and then they can use a narrative to help bring it down.
Okay.
And then they just updated it to large standard giant. You can't
Change the
it's-
names.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got the new names
Yeah.
in brighter colors with some faded on them.
Scroll it down.
Close combat, not really anything in close combat.
No. Fighting against the empty gaps.
Yeah, this is somewhat important. Did we see the formation for skirmish?
No, we're not there
Oh,
yet.
We're not there yet. Okay.
That's a special rule.
Yes.
Wound pool, use the value that overrules the largest fraction. In cases where wound pools do not have the same relevant characteristics, use the value of rules that the largest fraction models of wound pools have.
So if you have a champion and you have the unit,
Okay.
yeah, it's just how you allocate. So in case of a tie, the attacker chooses not the defender. That's different.
Okay. And panic. What we got here? Still nothing.
Right. All pretty much the same.
Winning a round of combat. Okay, here's a change.
This is a
fairly
change.
significant.
This is a significant change at a tactical level.
Again, pulling in more standards into the game because you get a +1 combat res for each standard
So
bearer.
it's no longer standard bearer and army standard bearer. It's all standards
Yes,
or cumulative.
Every standard is cumulative.
Right.
So again, encouraging more standards into the game, which
Correct.
is a good change. I like.
So do I.
Although I think every unit should have a standard anyway. But
Except for certain skirmish and stuff.
splitting.
I think we think
combat.
they should be inclusive in the.
That's what we're saying. Yes.
In the listing, you shouldn't have to pay for them.
Good point.
Yeah.
That's worded better. This is where you have that place where the combat's split
Yeah.
because of casualties.
Yeah.
You get pulled out.
2 units fighting 3, and maybe the middle unit got blowed out.
Right, and now you're split up into different combat.
Now it's separate combats. What happens? So now they're basically saying you still figure everything out as though it was one combat to finish out that combat round.
Correct.
And then once the combat is resolved and calculate, then for future rounds you would worry about it as separate combats.
Correct. No longer that. Remember, the old one was used to be you what was it? Fought out of combat or something.
Right.
And then you would only use their wounds that they
Correct.
caused,
None of the modifiers.
not the
Yes.
modifiers. So they've cleared that. So now it's
Yeah.
all the modifiers.
Exactly.
together.
And that can have some impact on some attack allocation.
Correct.
Because before you would try to, I'm going to eliminate this unit because it's got the flank bonus on me. You know.
It's got the charge in the rear, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's going to be bad.
Yeah.
So moving on down, pursuit movement. It's already been fought during this combat phase. Clearing up the. It's created during this combat. clearing up the overrunning into another combat. Otherwise, you don't have a chance to fight again this turn, right?
I think it's just a
It's just clearing it up.
clarification. I guess there
Right.
may have been some confusion when, because you used to be able to pursue into a combat that hadn't been fight, and you would join that
Correct.
and fight that combat, so you could fight again.
Yeah.
Here they're doing saying the opposite thing. If it had been fought and you run in there,
Oh, right.
you don't fight it again. It's you wait until everything had a chance to fight again.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing. It's a
Yeah,
slight
it's just a
clarification.
clarification.
Combat reform. Basically, you have to play the same modifiers. It was a break test, and steadfast still works for that as well. All sources of damage are defined as attacks. This came up somewhere on the message board where something wasn't clear that it was an attack just because I got wounded.
Well, that one time that one guy we were playing with broke all the standards off your cavalry. That I consider that an attack.
That was I was wounded.
And you were wounded, and even though he denied he attacked you. It was
It's a good thing I had witnesses.
exactly.
Nice guy, but
Probably was when the standard was hanging from his sleeve. It was kind of obvious, you know.
yeah, I've never played him with my Bretonians ever again.
That's because you don't play Warhammer anymore. You can't play with Bretonians.
Good point. They're removing the part about hits with rank and files from templates simply because
no
templates aren't there. No real deal there. Again, the wound pools where the
Right. If it's a tie,
attacker
the attacker chooses. No changes on this. No
Regen
changes on
save.
regen or ward saves. I was kind of hoping they would merge those two, but
into one pool,
yeah, no biggie.
just to clean up a rule.
So streamline some of the stuff that isn't really that different in the game.
Infantry gain light troops, characters only.
Characters gain light.
Character
So
infantry.
all infantry characters are now classified as light troops from a rule. I mean, it kind of had that anyway
Right.
if you ran around, but
Towering presence.
right. Instead of large targets, towering presence.
Swarms.
Gain immune to
I thought
psychology.
they had it, but apparently they don't. They didn't. It's now a swarm rule. And the swarm, of course, the unstable gives you the
Right.
unbreakable.
Right.
Or immune to psychology. Anyway,
Yeah.
unstable gives you the unbreakable. Scrolling down. Removing. Okay.
Oh, this is
Apparently, I'm guessing based on this that there will be no more initiative tests.
would be our assumption. If that's the
Well,
case,
no. Ignore all of because taking non-initiative test characteristic test. Single characteristics defined above.
well, I haven't seen anything that has a
Does an
characteristic
initiative
test,
test. A
right?
characteristic.
Unless there's something in the army book,
Could be. Okay.
and we will divulge that we have seen
We've seen a couple army books.
and both seen the Paths of Magic,
And we've seen the Path of
at
Magic.
least a draft, and I don't think I recall anything in there being an initiative test.
I don't recall seeing a test, any test.
Correct, which is another change.
I don't think the abilities tests were in there.
Yeah,
All right, War Machine profile. Use the War Machine's toughness against rank. So this is gone.
how war machines take damage and fight is different.
Correct.
Fight in melee, not necessarily. Well, if they're catapults, it's different too. But,
Yeah.
War machines are different. let's
War
just say
Machines
that.
have
Yeah.
the radical. One of the biggest changes, of course,
Yes.
is War Machines, including the templates. And
Some people will be very happy. Some people will be very angry.
I think so.
They will be using their flame cannons to flame.
Yes, there will be flames.
Yes,
I'm expecting dwarven flames.
yes, dwarven and infernal dwarf flames, and
Use combined.
probably a few empire flames. Empire sounds stuff. Anyway,
Characters can never join them. Nothing. Most of this is not.
yeah. So I mean, the big thing understanding here is there's no longer your war machinist toughness 7
From
when
shooting.
you're shooting at it, and toughness whatever the crew was 3 or 4 in close combat. You
Right.
have one toughness that applies.
Your combined profile.
It's a combined profile whether you're in combat or you're being shot at.
Correct.
And you have a wound pool just like you did before. You'll see what it looks like from what we can tell. War machines now have a lower toughness, but they have more wounds.
More wounds.
So I think that does help some of the ballistic skill-based shooting armies, help them deal with
It's going to let some people shoot off war machines.
war machines,
better than they
and
used
some
to
of the
be able
magic
to.
missiles will be able to deal with them
Yeah.
a little more effectively. You have to get more hits, of course, but it will make it so it will be. Now the change in close combat is you actually, when you charge them, you hit automatically.
Right.
But-
right here, you say when you
right.
fight the round of combat, you hit automatically
Right.
with your normal
Correct.
close combat.
But the war machines have more wounds, so we'll have to see how that plays out.
Correct.
You know,
And I think, yeah, it's kind of a trade-off. But
yeah, it could be that they hang around actually longer because you can't get
Well,
enough wounds off of them.
be real happy of my, weapon skill 2 goblins hitting automatically
Yes,
with their
I'm
spears
sure you will.
when they charge in with my wolf riders.
Yes, yes.
That will
Or when
make me happy.
little skinks running around attacking war machines.
Yes.
But so we'll have to see how that works out. I'm sure they've tested it, and it's definitely different. I kind of like the direction they've gone as far as that's concerned.
The war machines are definitely more fragile than they used to be.
Yes.
I will say that.
Yeah.
Fireballs can deal with war
Yes.
machines. Maybe not with one shot, but
Right.
redid the chart, just using the new sizes.
Correct.
Close combat weapons. Slightly disappointed here.
Yeah, we both were really hoping they would make some changes to some of these weapons to what we thought make some of them a little more viable compared to others.
Right.
And they still make reference to the parry roll, which we'll talk about
Yeah, parry.
soon enough.
They talk about parry. It doesn't describe it in here, but parry is a special rule now.
Yes.
Not a big deal. It's just a
Right.
special rule.
But basically, no changes to any of the.
No,
The
no. I
weapons.
kind of wish. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, we talked about it in our wish list. We really had hoped that they'd make a few, nothing huge, but a few
A few
adjustments.
adjustments in there. Moving on down, you can see the short bow is now gone completely out of the
Yes.
game, and the brace of pistol is gone from the main rules.
Correct, but it's.
Some armies have a brace of pistols.
Yeah, I think it's going to.
Don't panic. Don't run for the hills yet.
Yeah, because if you hardly any armies had braces of pistols,
Correct.
because hardly anybody had gunpowder, so it's just focused on from what we can tell, it's on those armies. So yeah, don't panic.
You Empire of Sanstall players, relax. I did get a glance at that book, and it is in there.
At least that part of it, and yeah, it's there. And
So-
so the short bow, I don't know. I haven't seen any troops that would have a short bow to know if they.
The goblins got upgraded to bows.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yes.
So and we'll see what that's. But other than that, everything is pretty much
Yeah.
as it was. And then of course, everybody and their brother has special weapons in their in their army book. Everybody except for Kingdom of Equitaine.
Come on.
I'm not bitter.
Let's hold the bitterness back.
Yes, my lovely Silver Notes have special stuff, but not Kingdom of Equitaine.
No result like any other shooting deck. Basically, now again, artillery fires using its ballistic skill.
Yes, all artillery.
All artillery.
So catapults, as you saw, there's no more scatter die to hits. You're using the ballistic skill to get a hit.
Here's the changes. So
Yep.
bolt throwers now have penetrating.
Yes.
Do we leave it at that, or we try to get down there and see penetrating?
Let's go through it and then we can bring
Okay.
up the little snippet.
Bolt throwers now have penetrating attacks. Cannons.
I think we can say what it basically means. It basically you hit as you did before. You have, and penetrating attack tells you how many ranks basically you can go through from the front or from the flank. And it's 5
Correct.
if I remember correctly. So
The max was 5.
right, and the unit has a primary strength and a secondary strength, which we'll talk a little bit more when we see that. But they bore as far as how bolt throwers hit, they hit exactly the same, but they no longer do the dropping one strength
Correct.
through the thing.
Yeah. Cannon attacks kind of work the same way. It gets rid of the bounce. They have +1 to hit when hitting Towering Presence guy. That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Cannons are still the go-to weapon for killing monsters.
Right. But basically, cannons are the same as they were in 1.1. I think this is just cleaning up language.
Yep.
Catapults.
Cannons didn't. Well, the bounce is the only thing that changed on cannons. Because it used to be a die roll for see how far it bounced. No, it's no longer a die roll.
Yeah.
Anyway, catapult attacks. Okay.
Okay.
Ignore to hit penalties for soft cover and hard cover. Resolve them as follows. You roll a die.
Because you're using ballistic skill hit with your
Yes.
catapult.
On a 1, it's a misfire. And based on your ballistic skill, you see if you hit or not. If you hit, you gain your area attack X, which is the strength written in the catapult's description. On any other hit result, basically if you miss, this is to handle the partial hits from the catapult. You roll again to hit, and you ignore the misfire if you roll a 1 on the second die. If it hits this time, you gain area attack -1. So you hit, but it's -1 to the number of guys you hit, and we'll see that in a minute as well.
Well, to the area attack number.
The area attack number. The area attack number for... How are we going to explain this?
Let me talk it.
Okay.
So,
It's confusing.
yeah, basically, how this is you're going to have, your catapult's going to have an area attack number. More than likely it's going to be 4.
Right.
And what that means is that it hits a target and it's going to hit 4 models wide, 4 models deep. So basically 16 models. If the unit has enough ranks to take that many hits.
Right.
So it's really so if you're hitting a group of 20 guys 5 by 20, you can hit 16. If they're only got 1 rank, you can only hit 4. So because they don't have the extra range for the depth. So it's basically a square. So there's no more calculating, did I hit that base, did I not hit that base? It's just this wide by this deep. And if your formation is deep enough to take those hits, you take it. Now if you have a partial rank of only 2 guys and it lands on, well, you can only hit 2. You can't hit 4 for where there's no guys.
Right.
So, and the one of those attacks is your high strength attack.
Right.
And with allocation of hits, basically, if the models are less than 5 rank and file, then the attacker gets to designate who gets that hit.
The big hit.
The big hit. And
Correct.
if you're targeting, say, a guy on a dragon, he's only 1 model, he's going to get the big hit.
Right.
So, but if it's a big unit of troops, a big horde of orcs, for example, then the receiving player decides which guy gets the hit. So, the big hit.
Right. So that's just the area attack, just explaining what he was just saying.
Yeah.
So let's move back up.
So it's somewhat, I think they're having a problem, difficulty explaining it, and I think the graphics will help, and they've got some there.
Yeah, and it's really hard to... It's
Explain.
hard to think about when you're just first hearing it, but
Exactly, but as far
It
as the
works.
mechanic, it's very simple.
it's simple, and the
And there's no
template
argument.
is gone.
Yes,
There's no discussion.
there is no argument. You hit this many
Right.
guys.
Flamethrowers do not roll to hit. Instead, they roll a d6. It's not a to hit roll.
Yes.
On a 1, it misfires with -1, same as it was before. It's more dangerous. Attack is successful, and it hits with penetrating, except it does D3 hits
Per
per
rank.
rank. So it hits up to 3 guys per rank or file, to a maximum of the number of guys in the rank. So if it's hitting a conga line, it's only going to do 1 per
Right.
rank or file.
Now, the one thing I was unclear on this was, do you roll a separate D3 for each rank, or do you just roll D3 and apply it to each rank?
You roll a... What do you mean? Oh, no. You roll a D3 and apply it to that rank. So if you roll...
If you have 5
Basically,
ranks.
if he's 2, 2, 2, 2, is that what you're saying? He's too wide?
No, it can be 10 wide. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But you're applying D3 hits per rank.
Okay. I don't understand the question.
Do I roll a separate D3 for each rank, or do I roll one D3 and multiply it times the rank?
Oh, separate. Off the top of my head, I just said that because it
Yeah,
just...
it's not clear to me.
Oh, you're right. It doesn't
Yeah.
say that, does it?
Yeah.
D3 hits per rank. Okay.
I'm guessing it's 1 because they want less die rolls, but don't know.
No, I'm thinking you're going to roll it once for each rank. Because they've clarified that in a lot of other places.
Yeah.
That when something has multiple of D3 hits, you roll them separately. They
Yeah.
don't say it here.
Yeah.
You're correct. But, huh.
So anyway,
Okay.
so that's the
Moving
D3
on.
per ranks.
And the flame can, of course, can have multiple strings.
And then it's,
Short range and long range.
is that short range, long range, or is that the...
Short range, long range. The curly brackets
Oh, yes.
have a higher strength and or special rules stated in curly brackets, such as
Right.
strength 4 or 5. So basically it's 4 at long range, 5 at short range,
Ah,
which also I think is good because it'll tone them down just a bit.
yeah, they're quite nasty. But they still have multiple wounds D3, which is
Right.
makes them the monstrous infantry's best friend
Correct.
to get rid of.
They're always they're always happy to see them, aren't
Yes.
they? Moving on, we have the volley gun.
If I knew you holding the flame cannon party, I would have brought you a present.
Yeah, I've got to experience those, but
Yeah.
anyway. Volley guns have multiple shots. Anyway,
It's basically the same. No change.
no, we didn't see a change in the volley
Yeah.
gun. To hit rolls, it can misfire.
Do you want to
Can I-
bring up that snippet to?
Oh, yeah, here's what we've got. So, clip this out of the dwarf book. You can see the dwarf war machine has 5 wounds. It's only toughness 4.
Right.
They're going to be a little bit vulnerable to shooting.
Has a crew of 3,
As you
so
can see that.
when it isn't fighting, it's got 3 guys.
Even though it's
fighting,
got 5 wounds,
Right.
it only gets 3 attacks.
and 3 attacks while it's still alive.
Right.
The-
And you can see it's strength. The bolt thrower is strength 3, 6, which means it's got 1. And this is where that penetrate. Okay, how
Right.
the penetrating works is you total the number of ranks or files the unit based on which facing you're in, and that's the number of hits it does.
right.
There's no, like you said before, there's no hit wound, hit wound, hit wound.
Right.
It does 5. Like if you're a 5x5 block, you're going to take 5. If you're bigger than that, it's capped at 5. So
Right.
you're going to take 5. One of those 5 is at strength 6. The other 4 at strength 3.
Right. And
Done.
And who determines the strength 6 depends on how big the unit is.
Correct.
If it's 5 or less rank and file, then it's the shooter. If it's more, then it's the target
Yeah.
player.
So again, it's a thing that it's not speeding up the game. It doesn't matter if you kill a guy or not. You're doing the 5 hits.
Right. And then you don't have to do the math any longer.
And the no 5, 4, 3, 2, 1
Right,
strength
right,
or whatever.
right.
So that's the way that one works.
So I think that's definitely a streamline. So
It's definitely a streamline for that.
at first, I have to admit, I thought it made bolt throwers worse, but in
When we
chatting,
talked
it's
through
like
it,
no,
yeah.
they're actually better.
They're actually a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not going to sweep the field, but they're definitely better.
Correct.
Then you have catapults. Now you see here in this example, you have strength 3 and strength 7. So strength 7 once again is that one hit. That depending on your size depends who allocates it, and then everything else is strength 3 in that case.
And this 4 up here, the catapult 4, that's indicating it hits 4 guys
4
per
wide
rank.
and 4 deep. Right.
Correct. Not,
So basically 16 guys. So it's also like the old one, it depended on how big your bases were. So now it doesn't matter if you have 25 millimeter bases or 20 millimeter bases,
correct.
you're hitting smaller guys. So
Right.
the catapults, frankly, are going to be, if they hit, slightly less effective against 20 millimeter bases and probably slightly more effective against 25 millimeter
On a
bases.
hit, I think it's kind of the same. Anyway, we'll see.
Well, you could get more guys under, in theory, I'm talking about,
Right.
because you get like, what, 21 under that?
Used to get 22 under
Yeah.
on 20 millimeters.
Yes.
But I think it was 16 for
Yeah.
the 25s. But I don't, doesn't
And then
matter.
cavalry, of course, not that you're going to see that huge cavalry
Yeah,
units,
yeah.
but you can hit some good amount of guys. You can hit a lot more guys with cavalry because of their depth.
And again, does the big hit does D3 ordnance.
Right.
Same flamethrower. You can see here's the dwarven flamethrower. You can see what the
Strength range 18.
okay. There's a problem here.
What's the problem?
I don't think they doubled this.
Ah,
I hope to God they didn't. They forgot this.
yeah.
Ooh, okay. Because that would be an equivalent of a 65-point flame
Yes.
cannon.
Yeah. That would be-
So I don't think they doubled that.
Yeah, that would be bad.
But anyway, it took a little bit of a hit here in that it's strength 4 at long range.
At long range, it's strength 5, but it still has multiple wounds
Right.
and D3 and flaming attacks.
So anyway,
But that's just to show an example of how it shows
correct.
up in the little bit of that we've seen so far.
correct.
And we assume it's going to be the same on the other army books.
Right. And like I said, like you were saying before, or whatever, it's got a tough, these guys have heavy armor, so they do have a 5-up armor.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I was
for
kind
that
a little
shooting.
concerned when I did the combining thing, playing Sylvan Elves that It's hard enough to deal with war machines. All you got is really poison.
Right.
So now actually the ballistic skill based shooting can actually, with high ballistic skill, can actually handle them.
Yeah, I think war machines are in danger. I mean, it's definitely made them a whole lot more fragile than they used to be.
To people that can engage them with things. Well, on the flip side,
Well, even volley fire fires over stuff.
yeah, frankly, I thought ballistic skill shooting versus war machines before, you were almost always better off having the war machine. Just the amount of damage you could do, the
Correct.
number of hits
Yes.
for the points.
Right.
You know, they were substantially better because they were so tough.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're a little more fragile,
Right.
but they're still dishing out a good
They're a
amount
lot
of
more
damage.
fragile. And
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about ballistic skill shooting. I'm thinking about fireballs.
Yeah.
I think they're much more
Mm-hmm.
fragile. Anyway, and we'll have, we'll see.
We'll see how it plays out.
Playtesting is what it's going to take.
Right.
Misfire charts, same as it was. No changes into the armor section. Character category. Characters are category. Just clearing that up.
Yeah.
This was a change they made in this was a 1.1 rule change, I thought.
I thought so too.
Characters have to move into a legal position.
Right.
Cannot join the unit if it can't reach a legal position. Yeah, I thought that was a 1.1 change.
Maybe it's written differently.
Could be. Crossing off the templates.
Right. They don't
No
apply
big
any
deal.
longer.
And scrolling on down, the general has the inspiring presence special rule.
Right. So it's no longer a
he
standard rule.
yeah,
It's just a special rule.
it's
Same.
just
Same with hold your ground,
just the way, and the flag is
and
down.
same as the flag is down. So they're not gone. They're just in a different place.
Just everything's still there. It's just
Yeah.
written differently.
Challenges.
This is in the challenges. What do we have? You lose your BSB in a challenge loses hold your ground, and if it's a battle,
And it doesn't have the +1.
okay, correct.
Yeah.
So
They just moved it to a different part in the sentence.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just moved it. Correct. Okay, same sentences down
Yeah.
here, just moved. Got it. Combat ends up free, cleaning split through comments. Challenge considered to be over. Oh, okay. Because I guess when you do the split from combat, you can get split apart from your guy you're challenging.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Okay. The command group. Here's some changes.
What do we have?
First, we have this whole swift reform thing. So, a unit with a musician can make a swift reform.
Period.
Period. Yeah. The unit makes swift reform with the following exceptions. So, there's no leadership test. It's automatic. Unless... no, where the heck was what I was looking for?
March to the beat.
Oh, it's down below, yes. Let's have this march to the beat thing. It's basically, if you're within 8 inches and the enemy has...
Only affecting marching is the
Correct.
swift reform.
Yeah,
is-
it's exactly.
is
Basically, you don't have to roll. It's just it affects your shooting, and you can only do advances. So that's the same. It's just the big thing is you don't have to. Yeah, I got confused.
No rolling.
I got confused. I'm old. I get confused all the time. That's what I do. There's no rolling. So
It's my job.
that's actually for maneuver armies. That's a big freaking deal.
The swift reform, it's huge.
Yes.
And it makes your musician even better than he was.
Absolutely,
before.
you start seeing it more probably in some of the fast cav.
Right.
If the leadership bonus wasn't enough for rallying, it's even
Well,
more to get you guys moving.
There's another reason to take it in fast tab.
March to the beat.
And that's march to the beat.
Yes,
Because you get the fast cav unit within 8 inches, with a musician.
was that a
And-
song by the Bangles?
March to the beat. You know your Bangles music, huh? Basically, now if you have a musician within 8 inches of a unit that's trying to march, it's -1 to march.
Right.
Again, another really, it's not huge, but this is a significant change for musicians. Musicians got
Yes.
better, much better.
Yes, they definitely improved musicians.
Standard bearers got better because of the no limit to the number
No
in
limits,
combat.
and there's no more captured standard.
And the champion.
Did I mention there's no more captured standard?
There's no more captured standard.
You don't lose your standard anymore.
Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. You lose, you don't lose your standard. You come back, if you still have models enough for them, you still got it.
But do you lose your standard?
I think that's kind of
That's kind of nice.
that's kind of nice. I think it's big. No more of the switching models
Yes,
out.
correct.
Yeah.
The champion change, he loses his +1 weapon skill and +1 ballistic skill.
Yeah.
I kind of missed this a little bit, but
Yeah, but I like it because it was just
it was one die roll that had to be separate from the
exactly.
others.
It's streamlining play, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I do kind of
And I saw this forgotten a lot too. So
yeah, I do it myself. Oh shoot, I should have done that.
well, the other thing also I saw a lot was your champion. You know your unit's weapon skill 4, but then you have to take that minute to think about. Oh, my champion's 5, so his 5 compared to your whatever.
Exactly.
He's going to hit different. So I've got to anyway.
Exactly. So that I think is a good thing. But then I do kind of wish. I mean, I remember something that Warhammer once did was, different kinds of champions had different kind of bonuses.
The old orc champions used to be awesome.
Oh yeah, they were fantastic. But
That's all I got to say.
So that I thought that was kind of a nice flavor thing.
Yeah.
But this is fine.
I mean, maybe we'll get there. Who knows?
Yeah, the order charge. I thought they might do something there about cavalry versus infantry, but as far as the auto distance, yeah.
Right. Still the odd 4s. Still nice, but dangerous terrain still the same.
Yeah, cavalry, they need to stay a little farther away, and they need failing the charges hurts them a lot more. So
one thing we missed earlier is we haven't missed it yet. Sorry, it comes up later. Okay, moving on.
we missed the future.
We missed the future.
The future is now.
And we're talking about having to have more than
or is
half
the future
your
later?
footprint.
Yes.
The future will be later.
The future will be later. Okay.
So
most of the terrain is
just more than
the
half.
same. Yes. So
Everything looks the same.
So cavalry still trips in fields.
Yes. Well, they're plowed.
Yes.
It's not easy running across a plowed
And
field.
exactly. And everyone becomes flammable in the field still.
Everyone's still flammable. The ruins are still dangerous.
Ruins are still dangerous.
Water is still bad.
Forest still block.
Yes. Walls are pretty much what they were, still
Yes.
the same. And here we go.
A lot of this is half footprint. You see the little green stuff. It's just saying more than half the footprint. Buildings are way different. I think of all terrain, buildings are probably the most difficult to write in a formation game. A skirmish game,
Correct.
it's easy.
Yep.
But we're not playing skirmish. If we want to play skirmish, we'll play, Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
This is a formation game.
Right.
And so basically what they've done here is you can no longer go inside the buildings.
Correct.
You have to move through the buildings. If we're reading this correctly, if you can't move through the buildings, you don't have enough moving to get through it. You stop because it's impassable terrain.
You have to be able to get an inch beyond it.
So you have to be able to you can't be within an inch of that building. So you have to get through it and onto the other side and not be within an inch of it to move through
Correct.
that building.
So units aren't going to be moving through buildings.
Really big, deep units. I mean, shallower units don't have a problem.
Right.
Cavalry, not a sweep around. Well, actually, infantry doesn't count. They still get stuck. It's really only the infantry stuff. Never mind. Cavalry still, it's impassable. But
It's funny, but the unit of war dogs or whatever can just run right through it.
yeah. Well, they count as small troops in the game. So, but basically, things that are single rank won't have a problem. But you get some guy that's got a bus of 10 rank guys, he's not getting to that building.
Yeah. And then this other part, I've got to say, this is one of the rules I do not like.
Yeah, this is wonky.
Units that moved through a building with more than half their footprint benefit from hard cover until the start of the next friendly player turn.
So it's
or
kind of
until they
like,
shoot.
because part of the time in theory you're moving through the building,
You get
the
cover.
bonus. But you don't get that for any other terrain in the game.
Yeah, if you run through a woods and spend 90% of your turn in the woods and come out, it doesn't help you.
Exactly.
And this makes it really bad on what this does is it makes war beasts in particular, from what I'm seeing, and I guess monstrous beasts as well, because of their big movement. You got
Yes.
movement 8 dogs.
Yes.
They start behind a building. They run 16 inches through that building, and they are -2 to be shot at
Yes.
to shoot them down.
Well, you play games with it. I moved in front this turn, then I got 16 inches. I'm fast. And I got
Anyway,
Swiss reform. I just back up and go back. Just keep going back and forth to get to 2.
I'm not a fan of the take cover part.
No,
of
no, this
at
I
all.
don't
And
like.
I think it's also a little fiddly because the guy's going to shoot at you. He's going to roll. Oh, I got you. And he's like, no, I had a hard cover because I went through the building. Oh, I wouldn't have shot at that unit. You should have remembered. Anyway, I
I don't like this.
I think it's a little fiddly, and I don't like the fact that it's weird.
Correct.
It's so separate.
I do
Anyway.
like, and a lot of people won't
Told
like
you we
this.
wouldn't agree with everything.
Exactly. I do like that basically they're saying, nobody's in a building.
Correct.
there's a lot of desire to be in the building, but it just causes so many problems in the game.
Yeah.
With big units and large types of units, how you fight them. And while it's all kind of neat and all, it's a pain in the tuchus. It's always been a pain in the tuchus.
Yeah.
And even the last version, 1.1, was some of the better building rules that we've had in this game ever.
Except you can still get stomped.
You still get stomped, but they still were finicky, and it could take time to deal with stuff.
Correct.
This is just so I really like that part of the change. I have to say.
Yeah, I like everything except this.
Until we get to the take cover.
So anyway, and this is one of those things. There's probably guys out there who will love this. So,
yes.
And fine. There's parts of every game that I don't like, and
I'll love using it with my Sylvan Elves.
Yeah, no, I won't. That's why I'm not playing you anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on. If your BSB is killed or has fled,
victory conditions for the scenario.
Right. And again, your BSB is
right. You only get it if he's dead or he's running away.
And
there's no more captured. And this next one's big.
These standards.
You can no longer take standards and get victory points for it.
So no longer not only are standards good because you get multiples in combat res, you don't lose points for taking them.
Yeah, I love this because I always hated, you never saw standards in a lot of units, small units,
Correct.
because while you got a benefit, you couldn't afford to give up the victory points.
Right. Sometimes that standard was worth almost as much as
yes,
the unit.
exactly. So
Or
hopefully this will help with the standards.
Right.
If they do something with the army list, they could make it even better. But yeah.
Anyway,
but I think hopefully we'll see more standards in the game. And I said it's a miniature game. To me, it's always been about, and I think many people, not everybody, but it's about the spectacle of the army. And part of this, and nothing makes a unit look better than a big, huge, colorful standard.
I agree, even though I don't have good standards.
Yeah, I mean, I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
I have no standards.
You have no standards, yes.
Moving on. Scoring units, it's just clarifying again that your scoring unit doesn't care about banners, your scoring
Correct.
unit.
So it's unit based, not standard based.
Correct.
I'm very excited. I'm very interested to see the Sylvan Elf list, which had a standard issue.
Okay.
How to get scoring units in the army.
See how many of them are scoring.
What they've done with that. Yeah.
Victory point chart. You can see they've done it on their recommended game of 4,500.
Yeah. So this reallocated to the new points. It looks really funny with the new points. It's going to take some. It's going to take it's going to take a lot of complaining.
Yeah.
But it's going to take some time to get used to.
Yeah.
To the new numbers.
It will. I mean.
But we'll get used to it.
Yeah, cut them in half, and they're the old numbers. But
basically, yes.
Oh no, not quite, because it's the 2250 game, not the 25.
That's fine. Well, for a while that was the standard game.
Yeah, it kind of was for way back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Until they came out with the horde rules, and then we needed more points to field our hordes.
Yeah.
Moving on to the special rules. A rule accurate is shooting weapons with accurate get +1 to hit. Oh, sorry. Don't suffer -1 for long range.
The orcs have the rule accurate with K.
Accurate.
With Ks.
We're not accurate with anything.
That's what I was wondering.
so
Area attack. So we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
So this is how the template. Well, no longer templates, but replaced by
area attack is the replacement for templates. Bodyguard. What do we got in here? So roll the number hit separately. Breath weapons. When several model parts.
I'm sorry. Could you scroll up to that graphic?
What do you want to see?
I'm trying to understand.
Area attack 4 only hits.
Yeah. I'm just going to go through the numbers real quick. So area attack 2, 4 hits because it's going to be 2 wide, 2 deep.
Correct.
In that example. Area attack 3 is 4 hits because it's going to be 3 wide in the first rank.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 1 in the back rank, so that's the fourth.
And no matter what your area attack is, you're only doing 1.
You're getting 1, so it's always going to be the high strength one. And then area attack 4 in this example, you're 3 wide, 2 deep, so you hit all, even though these are monstrous infantry size bases.
Correct.
You're hitting all 3, and you're hitting the second rank.
All 3. Now this area attack 4 on this unit would have been 8.
Yeah, 12 guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. 13,
I'm sorry.
14.
12, 13, 14, yes.
Correct.
14 guys, yes.
Yeah. So, anyway. Clear except unless you're us.
Yes, exactly.
So, moving
actually, it'd probably be good on the graphics if they actually
show a bigger
highlighted the color a little bit, which ones are being hit.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's important.
I think it just helps from visually.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah, the arrow doesn't mean anything to me.
It's just showing which way the
Which
unit's
way
facing.
is facing, I assume. But yeah.
Okay. Back here where we said breath weapons with cause GD6 automatic hits on the target, given within brackets such as breath weapons, strength 4, flaming attacks. When several model parts in the same unit have this special rule, roll for the number. Oh yeah. So basically, if you got two guys breathing on a unit, you roll them separately. You don't take one and multiply it. Okay, which is kind of what I said was a general rule earlier when we talked about it. Demonic instability, nothing's changed. I just need them to finish this.
Yes, the simplified formula that's not easy to understand.
Simplified formula if you know what CS is.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that's combat score.
Yes, I'm guessing it's combat score.
Okay. Anyway, clean that up, please.
Yes. Just put the words in.
Engineer, just tell you what he is. Now what he can do is he can let you all D3. Oh, there's your answer. All D3s rolled. Therefore, you do have to roll
all
multiples.
D3 rolls. That doesn't necessarily mean that.
What?
Just says all D3 rolls. Doesn't mean it's
for the number of hits.
Yes, doesn't mean it's for one attack.
Well, it would say the D3 roll. Otherwise, right?
It could.
Unless they did it wrong.
Yeah.
All right, fine. All right, still question then. Fix it. Anyway, the engineer lets you roll the number of D3.
Which makes it helpful on the flame cannon.
And this is confused. This is wrong. There's something wrong here. If this is used, you must either re-roll all dice.
Yeah, there's a typo there.
I think the either needs to come out. I think what they're saying is if you have to re-roll all the D3s you did. That's my interpretation.
Yeah.
My interpretation will probably be wrong. But
that would be not a good rule.
Anyway. Ethereal, this is the 1/1 change, I guess. Oh, model parts now.
Yeah, okay. It's the same as 1/1, so it's still the 3-up ward save, except against magical, it's 5-up.
Moving on, here's a big change that's going to upset some people.
Yes.
Fireborn, models with this rule gain a 2-up ward save versus flaming attacks, but as before. But while a model has Fireborn, it cannot benefit from regeneration.
Regen, right.
So no more regen with the 5-point Fireborn item.
Correct. I think we discussed this a little earlier. We had kind of different. I think this is more of a fluff thing.
It is. Just
because you generally can't have regen and flame, so putting them together as far as an ability is a bit odd.
Yeah. Got it. Grinding attacks.
You can still do your ward save and your Fireborns.
Yes.
So yeah.
Grinding attacks is just telling you that if you've got multiple with grinding attacks, you roll them separately.
Right.
You don't roll one and multiply.
Just clarification. Big deal here.
Hidden is gone.
Hidden is gone. Now I don't know if that's because as far as I know, it's only in 1 or 2 army books, and it's an army book thing, or the rule is gone.
Right.
Haven't seen Beast Herd's army book, so don't know. We'll find out next week.
Yes. Special rule, receive the ability to reroll failed leadership tests.
Holy Ground's now a special rule. That's all this is.
Okay.
It was moved. Yeah.
That's all it's saying. More than half a unit is immune to psychology, then it's immune to psychology.
Right. Which is important. That just means you can't have a character and that's immune to psychology. He doesn't give it to the unit.
Okay. Impact hits. All it's doing is clarifying when they happen, and
they're a special close combat.
And they're special close combat, and also again you roll them separately.
Right.
Just as we've talked about in the other parts.
Yes. Inspiring Presence is a special rule. It's the same rule.
Instead of a thing. Yeah.
Right. Light troops
that have joined units with 1 or more models without light troops lose this.
Correct. Right, because now all characters that are infantry based are classified as light troops.
Right.
So they lose it if they join a formed unit. It's just a different way of writing it how it was before.
Magical attacks. All attacks caused by spells and magic items have magic attacks.
Oh, you missed magic resistance.
I did. This is what I meant to talk about.
Yeah.
The magic resistance. They clarified that the magic resistance does not work against things like a spell that makes you take dangerous terrain checks. Those dangerous terrain checks are not magical, therefore your magic resistance does not work, even though magic caused it to happen.
Right.
Anyway, so That's there.
Yeah, I'd say that's something a little disappointed. Magic Resistance doesn't do enough, in my opinion.
Right.
But it's clearer at least.
Right. And
I've had that conversation a few times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the magical attacks you were saying.
Yeah. All spells and magic items have magic attacks.
Right. I think that was a QA item.
Was it?
Yeah. Somebody was making the argument. Yeah. Just to make it clear.
Fly is I don't like this the way it's written. Anyway, ordinance. Basically, it's saying if it's ordinance, it's
just
plus
a rewrite.
1.
Yeah, it's just a rewrite.
Well, I don't think this is right, is it? Model with fly is multiplied into x plus 1 instead of x. Multiplied?
I'm not.
I think that needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, I don't like the language that much, but I guess they're still working on that.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it stand out as far as how that works.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same as it looks. It looks the same as what it used to be.
It is. It's just how it's written.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not quite. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's multiplied, it would be x times 1, not x plus
Correct.
1. Yeah.
Anyway, still cannot duplicate signature spells, non-signature spells. Okay. Oh.
So this is kind of interesting because this
Pathmaster.
implies that you can duplicate spell. Actually, I meant to check that out and I forgot to in the magic if there was a restriction on having a spell once still. But clearly with Pathmaster, if you have multiple spells, you can actually duplicate 1 through 6 spells.
There was in choosing your thing. If you, I think I will have to look at that.
You have to look at that, yeah.
Okay. Parry is now a special rule.
It's a special rule. Unfortunately, it's still here with the 4-up.
Penetrating, we talked about. This is where you do, with the bolt thrower has penetrating, cannons have penetrating.
Parry still bothers me.
Parry's going to always bother us.
Yes. Until hopefully they'll do something by version 2 that's different. I'm sorry.
Turn in more 1 hit, only a single hit. Okay. So poison attacks, just saying if it goes on to penetrating hits, it only goes on to 1.
Yeah.
Not all of them. That's kind of odd. I guess you can't poison a bolt throw. Catapult
there you
shot. Right?
Yep. Or the shrapnel from it.
Which means they cannot perform magical moves. Random movement cannot do magical moves. Simple. I crossed off the part about garrisoning a building with them because you can no longer garrison buildings.
I was actually unclear on the random movement.
What about it?
Which also means they cannot perform magical moves.
Yes. Basically, they're saying you can't use the hand, what used to be the Hand of Gork or whatever, which is gone now, but you can't use that to magically move.
Yeah, but there are other magical moves. I'm curious what this. I would be curious to see what this was about.
It's been there. I mean, no, sorry, it's been answered, but
yeah, no, I didn't know. I didn't see. I was just curious what caused that to be a restriction.
Because the clarification, I mean, the intention was never that you could move a random mover with it, according to what I saw.
Yeah.
But because it was anyway.
I mean,
remaining
magical moves are often fixed moves, but and random is not. I don't know. It's just on.
Okay.
Didn't know why. Clearly, you can't garrison buildings because nobody can garrison buildings, so I got rid of that.
And model with Fireborn cannot benefit from regeneration.
Right.
So just the other side of that.
The inverse of the other one. And here's scoring with a nice little graphic, which supposedly is going to appear next to all the unit headings in the army books.
Yep, and I saw that.
Yep.
Happen in the army book I saw.
Yeah, we didn't see all the army books, so we don't know.
And you can talk about this one. This is a big one.
I'm sorry, go back up.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was nothing else here. Yeah. So basically, yeah, it's just scoring units work exactly the same. It's just no longer.
You lose your scoring when you do the same thing. The post-combat reform after the
right, or if you're an ambusher after turn 4. Yeah.
Yeah, on game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Skirmishers.
Okay, this is a pretty big change for skirmishers.
I understand they want 12.5 now, just to say that.
So the rule is that we all have to buy rulers that have .5 millimeters on them, so we can check the distance. I think we have to get a micrometer for that, but but more seriousness. So in the past, you had your skirmish formation. Just take it down to the graphics.
Okay.
It's just easier to show it. This is all
Good
what this
point.
is saying. Is you had your skirmish formation, which you were half an inch apart, and then when you got charged, you would actually form up,
Yeah, condense in.
and you would condense in, which caused weird things to happen.
Correct.
They did a lot of changes with the Ninth Age was much better about it than Warhammer was about who faced where, and I remember all the changes that
Correct.
went through. But it always caused some odd things to happen. So what they've done now is they basically have said that you always stay in skirmish formation, even when you're in melee.
Correct.
So there's this no more of this. Oh, I need to squeeze all my guy. I've got a big unit of dryads, and now I've got to squeeze them all together.
Correct.
And then I'm done. I got to spread them all apart again. How many games did you see with people skirmishers? They stopped moving their guys,
Right.
because it was just too much of a pain. So you always fight and move in that same skirmish formation. So what that means is, on the negative side, is you're more than likely, because you're going to be spread out more, you're going to get less attacks.
Less combat effective.
So you're going to be slightly less combat effective, which if you play historicals like we do, we're used to that because that's
Correct.
skirmishers can't mask because
That's
they're all over
that's
the place.
Penalty of skirmishers.
Yes, they don't magically teleport
Right.
into formation. So that all makes sense to me. It also, from an advantage, you can now build movement trays, and your guys stay there. It's none of this back and forth and all messy stuff that would happen in a lot of games.
And speeds games along because you're not moving them back and
you're
forth.
not readjusting your figures. And for armies that have a lot of skirmishers, Saurian Ancients come to mind, Sylvan Elves come to mind. I think this will make it easier for people to maneuver and fight with their units. Now, where the downside is that loss of combat effectiveness, not a lot of armies have skirmishing combat effective units.
So it's
But-
okay.
Well, those armies that do, like Sylvan Elves and Blade Dancers now, that's going to annoy some people. I can be sure.
So what we're saying is this is bad because it's not really good because it hurts Sylvan Elves?
Absolutely, because
I'm all for this rule.
absolutely, that's absolutely the point. Because everyone knows they're the best elves because all other elves are
So
inferior.
now the way I'm looking
because
at this,
they're only half. But no, this is so. I like this rule. I think it just cleans up the movement. I said I think there's going to be some fireballs about it because
there are, unless there's a special where we haven't seen something like
yes,
because you got
or maybe they no longer skirmish.
I mean, you've got this big skirmish block here.
Yes,
I charge a lone character into it.
Yes.
I'm still have to maximize on 2.
correct.
So I'm fighting 4 guys instead of hitting this guy's dead on and fighting
And in
6.
6, correct.
So it's going to
And-
reduce your combat effectiveness.
Yes, and most of the time it's not going to be a huge number of guys.
Correct.
I guess if you hit on the flank and you got a wide unit, it could.
Yeah.
That's what you'll notice it the most. But it does reduce your combat effectiveness in combat. And so we haven't seen all these army books, so for all we know, things like Blade Dancers are no longer skirmish. But they get swift reform. Who knows? But in the grand scheme of things, it's very different. That's going to annoy some people, but just for ease of use, and frankly, modeling opportunities, because now you can make nicer movement trays, not getting them all banged up because I have some that were they're flat on top because the guys were always moving. Now
Right.
I could put some sticks or whatever on there, and
Yeah.
have a little
Decorated.
have basically a diorama movement tray, and not worry about it being functional because it'll be functional.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I just think it'll be faster just moving them around the table.
And they're showing here an example of it's interesting here they're showing it,
The footprint.
the footprint, yeah.
So basically,
formation.
if you're charging this from the rear, you measure from this corner over here. You're charging
Right.
this corner here. Is
And
where
it's
you're
because
measuring
it's
to.
oversized character bases in there. So yeah, probably something up front, a graphic of this would be helpful. But I think that also helps the game.
Moving on, stomp. Basically, if you have multiple stomps, you roll them all separately.
Yep.
Simple. That's why I keep pushing towards the other rule. A towering presence is a new rule.
It's just a rewrite of large target.
Toxic attacks based on the model part.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd get rid of this and merge it with poison, but oh well.
Unless they start their move within the range of presence. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just undead marching. Just putting more stuff into the special so you can find the rules all in one place, which is a good thing.
I always thought this was a rule. Guess it doesn't matter. Unstable units can only be joined by unstable characters. Maybe not.
Don't recall.
Oh, vampires aren't unstable, are they?
Yeah,
The character
yeah.
himself?
As far as I recall,
Okay. I don't know.
everything undead is unstable.
Okay. So, anyway,
They
I'm not
combo.
sure what the change there is, but... And now switch to hold your ground instead of battle
Yeah,
standard bearer.
correct.
Right?
Yes.
Nothing major there. War platform stays the same.
Wizard Conclave's a little different.
Predetermined spells determined in the army book. A Wizard Conclave champion will also know all trait spells and attributes. Okay. So now he gets the trait and the attribute. I'm not sure if he did before, but they do now.
Well, they didn't have traits and attributes in the
They
same
didn't
context.
have traits. They had
Right.
attributes.
So now they're
right?
saying you get,
Okay.
you get whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm okay. Doesn't make a big difference there, I don't think. It's a bonus, though, if the trait's a good one.
Yeah.
Or the attribute.
So, yeah, let's go back up to what we forgot.
Choosing spells?
Yeah, choosing spells.
Man group, that was that way up here, wasn't it? Spells. Oh, that was the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And point cost, characteristic test. Was it before this?
I don't remember where it is. But they do have a nice table of contents.
They do. Let's ignore it. General proof battlefield lost.
No. Is it under setting up? No.
It's under setting up, wasn't it?
Is it, or is it under magic? Magic phase spells.
I
Magic
don't
phase
think it was
sequence.
there. I think it was pre-game sequence somewhere in
Okay.
here.
I click on that and find out if it's there.
Randomize. Nope. Generate spells. 7. Deployment zone. Secondary objectives. Generate spells.
Okay. Spells under 6.
Learn spells are numbered 1 through 3. See what's 1 is rolled. If a duplicate learn spell is rolled, the wizard must replace it.
Okay.
So now the Pathmaster becomes even better,
Right.
right? Because
Correct.
he
So it's still the
allows-
same. You can't duplicate spells, but if you have a Pathmaster, you can,
from what I'm reading.
from what we understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from what I'm seeing there, unless that was a mistake. Right?
Yeah, that's what it seems.
All right. Well, that's the
That's the basic rule book.
rule book. We'll come back in a few minutes with the...
Yeah, we'll do a separate video on the magic items. We're going to do those next.
yeah, this one seems to be getting a bit long.
Because this is already a little long in the tooth for people. And as I said, this is just summarizing. We've gone through what we've seen. The full version will be out next week, and then we have no particular knowledge of the inner workings, no more than
None.
anyone else. We're just very grateful that the
Yeah.
executive board
appreciate-
allowed us to participate and support the game.
And as you can tell, they didn't tell us we had to be happy about everything.
Exactly. And,
Because I don't, again, what we've mentioned before and what I'm seeing out on the boards and everything is, and everyone has to realize that when changes are made, not everyone's going to agree with them.
correct.
I mean, it could be that, a month down the road, I think some of these changes of the one I don't like, I might end up thinking that's the best thing in the game
Correct.
after I played it. But
And by the time they get to 2, it might not be there anymore after it's played
Correct.
a few times. So hard to say. This is just this version. Next month, December, I guess, is the next update, 1.3, if I remember
Is it?
correctly.
Okay.
Or was it end of November, sometime around there? And then I guess April again, until it gets locked down. But it's just a whole bunch of people
Yeah.
volunteering and supporting the game. They didn't tell us what we couldn't say, what we could say. They didn't ask us to push anything. They didn't ask us to be rah-rah.
so we'll find out if we're invited back for something.
So we're going to find out if we were too good or too bad.
Brutal or whatever.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
When all of a sudden content teams removed from our
Yeah.
respective logins.
Yeah, look at mine.
Oh, wait, that kind of happened to me already.
You already had yours removed for non-participation. You don't exist.
I do not exist.
Yeah. So anyway, like I said, I'm excited about this. I think it's I think the changes are good. I like overall. I think it's a good set of rules. It's gotten better again,
And it's evolving.
and it's still evolving. And whatever. I'm happy.
Yeah, and
Not with everything, but I'm happy.
exactly. And the thing is, we've been playing games a long time. I've written rules myself.
Correct.
played them, and it's not something that you just turn around and do in 3 months and it's great.
Yeah, and that's with you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're not dealing with 30 other people
Exactly.
looking over your shoulder,
Exactly.
offering
you play test
suggestions.
and you play test and you play test and you tweak, and before you know it, you realize you've got too many band-aids and you have to go through simplification. It just takes many rounds, and that's kind of the process from what we can tell that they're going through, and it does take time. Even if this has a lot of similarities to a previous game, it is not the same game as Warhammer. It
is not.
It is its own game, and that's the guiding
and I think
principle.
I think that is the thing that a lot of people don't understand or don't want to understand, I guess.
Yes.
And that this is not Warhammer.
Yes. In the world without lawyers.
In the world without lawyers, we can do whatever they can do whatever
we want.
But I mean, even with lawyers, this is not Warhammer. It's an improved.
Correct.
It's a different game. It's better than what Warhammer 8th Edition was.
Correct.
And I think this made it a little bit better as well. So,
yeah.
Anyway, it's not Warhammer. Get over it. Warhammer's gone.
Unless Specialist Games brings it back.
Oh, you just gendered a ton of hate, didn't you?
There you go. And then no one will play it because it's not as good.
With that, I'm leaving.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for listening.
So yeah, thanks for listening, and come listen to our next video on the
Magic items.
Magic items.